T-minus 27 seconds. We have gone for redundant set sequencer start. T-minus 20 seconds and counting. T-minus 15, 14, 13, T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. We've gone for main engine start. We have main engine start.
The Shuttle. Man returns to space. A WMFE special report. Here's Chris Dudley.
Good evening from Kennedy Space Center. The Space Shuttle finally lifted off today, 2 days late and several $1 billion short. The launch came at 7 o'clock Sunday morning Eastern Time without major problem. A minor problem did come up when astronauts Young and Crippen weren't getting enough air in their helmets. That was soon corrected. The launch was delayed from Friday when 2 of the 4 main computers were communicating with the backup computer 40 milliseconds, or about 41 thousandths of a second faster than they should have been. But this time those computers were working and everything was smooth as silk, as we'll see as we pick up the count from T-minus 15.
T-minus 15, 14, 13, T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. We've gone for main engine start. We have main engine start. Liftoff of America's first space shuttle. And the shuttle has cleared the tower.
Roger. Columbia, Houston, you're go at throttle up. Roger, go at throttle up.
After a decade of waiting, the shuttle is the world's first reusable rocket plane. It's a true aerospace vehicle bridging the gap between spacecraft and airplane. But the shuttle is actually nothing more than a reusable truck carrying payloads to and from space, according to Dick Thornburg of the Shuttle Planning Division.
This is really a transportation system. It is
a truck.
Yes, exactly. It's supposed to replace the old expendable launch vehicle. The idea here is that let's try and take space and make it into kind of an airline operation, if you will. The idea is launch like a rocket, land like an airplane.
The Shuttle Columbia was designed and constructed under the supervision of Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. It was then flown to Kennedy Space Center in Florida, riding piggyback atop a 747 jetliner. All the components of the Space Shuttle were brought together at KSC, the prime launch and landing site. The delta-shaped orbiter is but one of the 3 main components of the Space Shuttle transportation system. It's about the size and weight of a DC-9 jetliner. The propellants of the orbiter's 3 main engines are carried in a large external fuel tank which stands 15 stories high. The 2 solid rocket boosters attached to the external fuel tank are providing 6 million pounds of thrust at liftoff, and about 2 minutes after liftoff, those solid rocket boosters burn out and are jettisoned, falling approximately 140 miles east of Cape Canaveral. There'll be 2 retrieval ships on the scene waiting for those boosters to fall, and UTC Captain Dan Rickson explains the retrieval process.
When the booster comes down, we anticipate that it'll float in a vertical mode with about 1/3 out of the water. Our first job will to see that it's intact and it's floating properly. Then we'll recover the 3 main parachutes that lower the booster into the water, and then the drogue chute and the frustum, which is the apex of the rocket. We'll recover those, and then we'll launch a nozzle plug which is basically a controlled submersible that's controlled from the ship. We'll launch this. It'll go over, inspect the casing by remote TV camera, submerge, insert itself into the rocket casing, whereby we'll blow air through the nozzle plug, displacing the water, bringing the casing up to float in a horizontal mode. Once it reaches horizontal mode, we'll pump the rest of the water out, seal the casing, disconnect the umbilical cord, take it in tow, and bring it back to Cape. It's brought into the slip. It's turned over to disassembly, where it's washed off, cleaned off, disassembled, and then sent back for refurbishing for reuse.
As the Shuttle Columbia is reusable in future missions, it will carry numerous payloads into space. But this maiden flight has but one purpose.
Well, the first space shuttle mission is really to check out all the systems. We have tested these systems on the ground, but now we want to commit them to launch and see how they actually perform during flight.
On all your other test missions, you sent up several unmanned, but this is the first test mission you really sent up manned. Why are you sending men up this time?
Okay, now your question is a good question, because it shows you the uniqueness of this first shuttle launch. In all previous manned spaceflight programs, we've always started off by taking a vehicle, developing it a step at a time. Only until we got to the Apollo program, the Saturn V, if you'll recall, we had 2 unmanned launches to prove out all the systems before we actually committed it to safe for manned spaceflight. In this particular endeavor, though, we looked at that alternative to see if we couldn't handle this thing remotely. And all of the data came back that said it. We felt confident enough with the testing we have done so far, like the approach and landing testing out at Edwards a couple years back, and all the fact that the solid rocket boosters are almost fail-safe, if you will. That we felt that the risk was we would do a better job by using man on board, and it seemed like the only way to really go practically.
Making the reusable shuttle practical are 2 rocket boosters that can fly up to 100 missions.
We're using the similar state-of-the-art as we've had in the past. That is, it's a liquid oxygen, liquid hydrogen type engine. It's a more efficient engine. It runs at a higher pressure, but and we get a little bit more thrust out of it. But the engine, by design, is supposed to be capable of something like 100 missions.
But problems with those new boosters have kept the first mission from getting off the ground on time. During tests, the engines exploded and burned up with frightful regularity.
And one of the main characteristics is the fact that you have to flow so much propellant through it so fast. The engines have to have turbo pumps that will constantly feed this fuel and this oxidizer into the bell of the engine at a constant pressure and a constant rate. And of course, this has to be done with precision. And so, because we're moving the fuel at such a rapid rate, this is one of the areas that we had a lot of problems with the high-pressure turbo pumps.
The heat protection system, made of some 30,000 tiles, will protect the Columbia and its crew from virtual incineration as it meets friction upon re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere, where temperatures can reach up to 2,000 degrees, according to Orbiter Project representative John Presnell.
There are a glass and silicone matrix with a ceramic coating, which is then baked on the outside. And of course, there are black tiles and white tiles, which the black tiles are a higher temperature tolerance tile and have a different coating, which gives them the black color. But it is a ceramic coating in both cases.
And they're also very light.
Yes, also very light, and that, of course, is the primary design criteria, so that you save vehicle weight.
But relatively untried in a real situation. If one of those 30,000 tiles should fall off at re-entry, officials can really only guess at what may happen.
Most of the tile, the loss of one is not critical. If the real danger is a peeling effect when you could get air loads underneath the surrounding tile and perhaps strip a larger area. But one in itself, in most instances, would be tolerated.
Is that peeling possible as it re-enters the atmosphere? If one falls off at some time and then as the air gets underneath, could it possibly peel?
Well, that's the failure mode that we protect against by the design which we've gone to, which is the densified layer on the bottom of the tile, which helps in the bond process and strengthens the bond process so that you can re-enter without fearing that you will lose all these.
The tiles had to be redesigned several times because they weren't strong enough to withstand the stresses of flight and re-entry. The bonding system, the glue that holds those tiles in place, was also inadequate, requiring months of redevelopment. This and other delays added up to over 2.5 years and $3 billion in cost overruns. And according to Presnell, workers may have been trying to do too much, too fast, with too few funds.
It was a combination of both. Of course, the schedules for the development test and the development tests themselves had suffered from budgetary, what we call fiscal year funding things, which means that you do tomorrow what you don't have enough money to do today, essentially from one fiscal year to another.
Do you think that some of these delays could have been because of a lack of funds?
Oh, yes. I feel that that's primarily the reason. Had we been able to fund this thing like we would have liked in the beginning, we could have built that model, if you will, the development model, and we could have tested it through one means or another. And then we could have taken all those things we learned and had those design changes on paper before we started to try and make them on the flight vehicle.
If you had had the money that you needed up front to build the shuttle the way you wanted, would it have been cheaper in the long run to do it that way?
Well, I couldn't answer that because I just, that's not part of the, I just would not have a real good feel for the answer to that. I would imagine that in the long run, we would probably be able, we would have been able to take the vehicle and test it a lot and be ready for launch a lot sooner than we are at this time.
Yeah. So given the old time is money adage, it would have been cheaper, somewhat.
Probably, yes.
Yeah.
Probably.
Can some of those delays, like the tile problem, be blamed on underfunding by Congress or under-budgeting by NASA?
Both.
What's the solution?
Solution is be more realistic when you start out on a system.
Florida Congressman Bill Nelson and his colleagues in Washington are very much aware of the shuttle's cost overruns. In 1976, NASA gave a congressional subcommittee an estimated average cost per flight of about $22 million, based on a 12-year program. But by 1980, that cost rose to between $40 and $48 million. And by 1983, after figuring in inflation, the estimated cost of a single flight will be $107 million. Other problems came when an insulation blanket came unglued from the shuttle's hull as supercooled fuel was pumped into a tank. 2 workers suffocated as they entered a nitrogen-filled compartment, and other workers walked off the job over a contract dispute. But despite all the trouble, the delays, and the cost overruns, many careers and professional reputations are riding on the Columbia, along with astronauts Young and Crippen.
We know that our reputation and everything else is on the line. We know that this has to work, and it has to work perfectly. We only have one orbiter right now. As I said, the other one is in a production state. We know that if it doesn't work, the world's going to be looking at us and they're going to say, do we really need to pursue this? So therefore, it's got to work, and we're very confident that it will work, or else we would not commit it to launch. Everything will be perfect. That's the NASA way.
You can't take a system that has been so successful over the years as NASA and not have a high probability of success. And we'll have bumps. But overall, the shuttle will be a successful system.
But I think that once the shuttle demonstrates its capability, its reusability, and its cost effectiveness, then I think you'll find more and more ideas opening up for how we can use this space for the potential of mankind.
The future of America in space is riding on the space shuttle. After the first 4 test flights, experiments, and even manufacturing operations will be possible in outer space. The U.S. Defense Department and the American business establishment will be big shuttle users. With the shuttle as its workhorse, space colonies and even space factories will be possible. To modify an old cliche, the sky is unlimited.
But back in the 30s and early 40s, when we looked at the Flash Gordon comic series, and we look at what we've done up to this point in time, you look at Jules Verne's and the things that he wrote about and what we're capable of doing today. Back in that day, a person would say, well, that's utterly ridiculous. How in the world am I going to watch an event halfway around the world when it's happening? And yet we do it today regularly. It's nothing. And I think we're developing lasers for a number of things, and I think the laser will probably one day be a very powerful weapon, which is the kind of thing you see on Star Trek and Star Wars and those kind of things. The vehicles that they develop, I think someday, maybe in the 21st century, that our grandchildren or great-grandchildren will look back and say, boy, that shuttle was sure a Model A looking type of thing.
Even for Advanced Studies Manager Tom Feaster, who's in charge of planning future space projects for NASA, the possibilities of outer space's potential can be mind-boggling.
I work in this every day, and I have difficulty with it. I can see where we'll have pharmaceuticals that'll be processed in space that'll be much more pure than what we can develop here on Earth, and even cheaper. I can see where we can develop things like ball bearings, light bulb filaments, and things of this nature that will make our life better. Our machines will run longer. Our light bulbs will last longer.
Before space factories and colonies are even possible, the space shuttle must first prove itself. Since the shuttle is nothing more than a space truck, tests on the 2 remaining 1981 missions will focus on the cargo bay and on the mechanical manipulator arm. Made in Canada, that arm will lift satellites from the cargo bay into space. By mid-1985, the shuttle will have launched 36 satellites on 40 missions. They include communication, weather, and navigation satellites to be sent up by the United States and foreign governments, as well as private enterprise. The Defense Department will also launch spy satellites from the shuttle. The cost for launching these satellites should be 35% to 50% cheaper than using conventional disposable rockets. In addition to carrying those satellites into space, the shuttle will also retrieve spent satellites for refurbishing and repair. Scientists aboard the shuttle will be able to further study the sun and solar flares, as well as the Earth, its weather, topography, ocean currents, and agriculture. Animal and plant development in a weightless environment will also be studied on Space Lab, a joint venture with European countries. Engineers working outside the shuttle will be able to build large structures in space, communication antennas, solar collectors to beam energy back to Earth, and space stations that will lead to the eventual colonization of space. But these ambitious projects cost money, and the United States Congress holds the purse strings.
Now, one of the priorities that most people are agreeing to in Congress now is that the science and high technology items, be it in space, be it in energy research and development, be it in other kinds of R&D, should have a priority, because what we find, for example, when we're trying to straighten out our national economy, that it's counterproductive if we cut the research and development into high technology things, because it is the spin-off of that high technology that many times helps us improve our economic condition.
And if the American public catches the gleam that they had during Apollo, a lot of these things can be done before the 1990s. If the American public doesn't catch that gleam and we have to go on the way we've been going with the shuttle program, one small step at a time, it may be the turn of the century or later before some of these things come to reality.
As space traffic increases, tourism at Kennedy Space Center should increase as well. NASA Tours is Florida's fourth largest tourist attraction, drawing 1.6 million visitors a year. But as awareness increases thanks to the space shuttle, so do ticket sales, according to NASA Tours spokesman George McGuire.
Right now, we're running 24% ahead for the year, and for the month of March, it'll be 40% ahead of March last year. And this is all due to the shuttle.
As the space shuttle becomes almost a regular thing, I think it may be planned to go up almost every week. What kind of an impact will that have on tourism in the future?
Well, you can get an answer to that as many people as you want to talk to. My own personal opinion would be I think it will probably double our attendance. The interest up north in the northern cities and in Europe, in South America, has always been strong for the Space Center. And since the bulk of our people do come from Central Florida, 67% from the Orlando area, this would mean that those, 40,000 some rooms in the Orlando area have an extra day added to their stay time of their visitors. And this, of course, translates into millions of dollars of impact they would have upon the business community of tourism.
Launch Day will also be a boon to the local tourist economy, according to Brevard County Commissioner Gene Roberts.
We expect a tremendous number of people at the launch, between 500 and 1,000 and 1 million people, and we're hoping they're going to lose about $1.5 to $3 million in this county on that day, and that's going to be good for everyone.
NASA's presence itself has been good for everyone in the county if exponential population growth is good. In 1950, Brevard County was a sleepy community with a population of about 50,000. By 1970, over 250,000 had rushed into the county, mainly associated with the space program and support industries. The 1980 population continued to rise at 270,000, and development is booming, according to Titusville real estate attorney Hank Evans.
Right now, there's a tremendous number of investors that are buying vacant land, counting on that shuttle going, with the concomitant development and the industrial development that will go with the space shuttle. So I think in 5 or 10 years, if that space shuttle works, you won't see Titusville as it is today. It'll become a major city.
Is the area ready for it?
Probably not. We have many issues such as water and sewer capacity, which we need to resolve. Everything's at the maximum right now. The city council's working on it, but I don't believe that the average citizen can see the influence that this program's going to have upon its community like somebody like myself who's directly involved with the developers coming down here and developing. And we're going to have some major problems with it. The growth's going to be tremendous, and we better be ready for it.
Something Brevard County wasn't ready for was the layoff of some 13,000 workers as the Apollo program wound down in the late 60s and early 70s. As a one-company county, the effects were devastating.
There was economic chaos in that part of Florida. What we learned by that is that we should not become a one-company town, and that the area needs to spread its economic base. And it's done so. So that now, with the advent of the shuttle and it becoming operational, that will be just one aspect of the economic vitality of the east coast of Florida.
But the economy of Florida's East Coast is still dominated by NASA. Many electronics and aerospace firms have popped up in the past few years, and according to KSC Deputy Comptroller Dallas Gillespie, with the advent of the space shuttle, many more may be moving in.
We expect in the future that the shuttle will have a fairly significant impact when we reach the flight level of 40 per year, and we have on each one of those flights about 4 payloads. And each one of those payloads bringing anywhere from 50 to 200 people into the county on a continuing basis.
As a resident of this area, what kind of an influence do you see NASA having?
A stabilizing influence, I think, as well as a challenging influence. It's one that keeps the whole county on the cutting edge of technology.
One thing about the space community that may have changed more than the economy was the attitude of the people. This is Playa Linda Beach, about 3.5 miles from Pad 39A, site of Apollo, and now the space shuttle launches. The beach was closed much of the time during the late 60s and early 70s without much opposition. But this time, the people of North Brevard County won't stand for it.
We had a meeting in June. It was our first announcement, and we just put a couple ads in the paper, and we had more than 400 people at a city meeting. People were being turned away. The community support was just tremendous. I got daily calls, offers of help to work on this issue. And once we had the community support, it was all go. It was quite easy after that.
We at NASA here felt very strongly that we needed to close that beach down for security purposes and also to protect this, this resource, if you will. Right. And I don't think that the town people saw it in the same light that we did. They felt that we were infringing upon a right that they had to enjoy the beach. Well, it just so happened in Apollo we had closed that beach and nobody really objected to it very loudly. But I guess voices are heard, and they raised enough voice that we were able to work out a compromise.
Now, back in the days when Apollo was going up pretty regularly, it was closed for, months on end. What was the feeling of the people then?
Well, the feeling was then that, that we're talking about the federal government, and that's a tremendous bureaucracy, and I guess the people just shied away from wanting to challenge the federal government. And apparently, we've had a young attorney here, whom I'm sure you recognize, and who wasn't willing to listen to that. And he really got involved and took the bull by the horns, and as a result, got people to listen.
I don't think that the people's attitudes at all have changed towards the space program. NASA wanted to portray it that way to make us look bad, but I think that was publicity, and if they had ever talked to the citizens of Titusville, they'd find out that was absolutely untrue.
But we just felt that there were ways to have the space program function and still let us have just a little bit of that beach.
People in Titusville and in North Brevard are very supportive of the space shuttle effort and the space program, and certainly they're willing to give up their fair share to have the thing work. But with the shuttle, it was giving it up completely and really getting nothing in return.
After a debate between NASA and the community for several months, the dust cleared and the beachgoers won. Central Floridians can now drive their cars to Playa Linda Beach after submitting to a weapons check and then continuing on without stopping in the security zone. Astronauts Young and Crippen will land Tuesday afternoon at Edwards Air Force Base in California. Then in about 2 weeks, the orbiter will be flown back here to Kennedy Space Center in Florida for reconditioning for the next mission slated for later on this summer. That, of course, is contingent upon the success of this mission and the evaluation process starting, no doubt, next week. America has entered a new era in space. Though we've all had to work hard to pay for it, it should be well worth it in the long run. I'm Chris Dudley at Kennedy Space Center.
Roger, Columbia, on the nice ride. You're lofting a little bit, so you'll probably be slightly high at staging.
1 minute 45 seconds coming up on go, no go.
Columbia, you're negative seats.
That call up says that Columbia, the altitude is too high for ejection seat use.
Columbia, your go for SRB SEP.
2 minutes 4 seconds, standing by for SRB SEP confirmation.
There we go. Roger on the SEP, Columbia.
Seconds, confirm solid rocket booster SEP.